Hello everybody, welcome back to Kanga TV, home of North Melbourne fans, and welcome to the round 2 preview. We play the Melbourne Demons this Sunday the 23rd of March, 3:20pm at Marvel Stadium. It's very unusual for North Melbourne to take on the Dees under the roof at Marvel, but we do play them twice this season, this being our first home game for the season and our first of 2 encounters against the Dees. We'll take them on at the MCG later on this year, and I'm recording on Tuesday night, not long after the news has been delivered that Jackson Archer's 3-match ban will be upheld, so we won't see him for rounds 2, 3 and 4, and that Griffin Logue will miss at least 1 week with a hamstring strain. He is in a race against time to make a return to the side. Our backline already looks shaky and has been under a lot of scrutiny just 1 game into the season, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any easier. Let's talk about the backline, let's talk about the D's, let's talk about all things North Melbourne and how we shape up ahead of our round 2 clash. Let's start with the backline because there's a few things I've been thinking about over the past couple of days and trying to piece together a bit of perspective on where our backline currently sits. It might sound like I'm making excuses for them, and I'm absolutely not trying to do that, but it's more just trying to give a little bit of perspective on where we currently sit and the current challenges our backline is facing. It's more about the personnel that are in there at the moment rather than the backline structure overall, because we just don't have a backline structure. I feel like our backline system and structure is not as strong as it should be and could be, and as such, individuals are coming under maybe unnecessary or undeserved fire because of the lack of structure that our backline has and has had for quite some time, because of lack of help that our backline gets from the midfield. And I think there were elements in the game against the Bulldogs on Saturday night that was quite reflective of that. Going into season 2024, and maybe it was shown early on in season 2024, our strongest key trio down back was identified as Griffin Logue, Charlie Comben and Aiden Corr. Charlie Comben, in his first season down back, it was only really identified probably 3-4 games into his 2024 campaign that he had emerged as quite a strong defender and quite a strong suitor down in defence. Griffin Logue, who we brought over from Fremantle a few seasons ago, we knew that he was a strong addition to our backline, and our backline looked so much better with him in it, but he went down with an ACL injury late in 2023 and wasn't expected to come back until the second half of 2024. And then Aiden Corr, who has notoriously been inconsistent with his form on field and battled with injuries off field, going into the season with him as our number 1 key defender, fit, experienced key defender, was probably quite a daunting prospect for a lot of people. So if you look at those 3 as our 3 key pillars in defence, as our main 3 pillars in defence, whether you like it or not, I think it's been widely accepted that that is the best, strongest trio North do have available to put on the park at the moment. They have never played a full game in defence together. Just let that sink in for a minute. So all 3 of those players have never played a full 4 quarters in defence together. The only game since the start of 2024 the 3 of those players have played the entire game is against Carlton. We played Carlton, I think it was round 19 last season, but Charlie Comben did go forward for a quarter, for a period of time in that game. He kicked 3 goals in the second quarter, which we all famously remember. He was taken out of that backline equation. The following week, the 3 of those boys went into the game against Geelong fully fit, and Griffin Logue didn't make it to the end of the game. He had re-injured himself and missed the remainder of the season. And then Saturday night was the first AFL game where the 3 of them were going to play together once again, and neither Charlie Comben nor Griffin Logue made it to the end of the game. Both of them finished the game before the end of the 4th quarter due to injury. Charlie Comben with an ankle injury, not quite sure the severity of that yet. He'll come under a test and see if he's available for selection on Thursday and then confirmed on Friday. I'm filming this on Tuesday, so the news might have come out between now and then, but I will insert myself in the future if there's any more news that has come to hand before this video goes live, but we know Logue will definitely miss on the weekend. Hello everybody, it's Marnie coming to you from the future. I filmed this video on Thursday and the teams just dropped at 6:30, so the teams dropped about 10 minutes ago. And I just had to take a moment to compose myself before jumping on camera and talking about it. I'm really shocked. Like, shock factor has definitely been achieved and we're only at round 2. And I just want to say from the outset, I'm more just trying to wrap my head around it because it's not what I expected. Not that I think it's necessarily bad? Are there things that I would have done differently? Yes, but I guess that's why I'm not the senior coach and Clarko is, and he's got a match committee helping him pick out the final side. But the extended interchange bench has just been released for Sunday's game. The team will be finalised on Friday afternoon. This video goes live on Friday morning. At the moment, we've got 2 out. So we've got no Griffin Logue. He's injured for at least a week. And obviously Archer's suspension has been upheld for 3 weeks. Charlie Comben has been named in the side. And I pray to God that he is fully fit come Sunday and he actually is ready and raring to go. Our ins for the moment are Toby Pink, Miller Bergman, who I do mention in this video, Dylan Stevens, Finbar Maley and Bryn Teakle. I just don't know what to say because I'm just shocked. It's like not bad. It's not good. I don't feel any of that because I just don't know how this would line up and how this translates to our final team to take on Sunday and take on the Dees. It's just not what I predicted. Like I would have thought that Riley Hardiman definitely would have been a shoo-in for this game. I would have thought at least one, if not both of Will or Callan Dawson would play. The Dees forward line and their key forward stocks are their weakest element of the ground. And given our defence has looked quite vulnerable at the best of times when we've had the best defence that we've got on the park, I would have thought we would have used this, take advantage of it, work on our defensive game. Callan Dawson in particular, I feel like he hasn't really put a foot wrong since he's come to North. He's just maybe missed opportunities because others have been ahead of him or he's lost his spot due to suspension last season and then couldn't break back into the side because there was a formula that worked better. I don't know. And then Miller Bergman I mentioned in this video because I thought he would maybe be a natural replacement for Jackson Archer, but then I also thought maybe having Luke McDonald in the side, he could play defensively and then Hardiman could come in and play that attacking defensive role. I'm just miffed. Like, it's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I don't think that we're not a chance to win this game. I actually feeling really good. The closer we get to Sunday, the better I'm feeling, the more I'm feeling like we are a chance that we could actually win this game. But wow, that's just not what I expected. Anyway, hopefully the rest of the video is still somewhat interesting. Hopefully it does spark a little bit of discussion and it's still somewhat relevant. I will check in with you guys again before Sunday's game, but hopefully when the side is released tonight, there will be a little bit more clarity around what we're trying to do and what roles each of these players will play. Anyway, here's the rest of the video. So then there leaves Aiden Corr. Aiden Corr often comes under a lot of scrutiny and I feel like there is maybe a bias towards him because of his inconsistencies in the past, that maybe we look at his current form and we're harsh on him. And he's not perfect. He would be the first one to admit that he's not perfect. None of our defenders are perfect. The reason being, well, a big contributor to that reason is they don't really get a lot of defensive support from higher up the ground, and midfielders do just let the ball get transitioned from end to end way too quickly. A lot of the time, the ball is delivered into our defensive 50 under little to no pressure, and it leaves our backman one out, often caught out, sometimes in the middle of no man's land. And even if 7 or 8 out of 10 times the defender does win the ball one out or the defense is able to repel the ball, there's still a lot of entries they just let through because of the nature of how quickly the ball is coming in, how frequently the ball is coming into defenses. Really only so much this backline can do. There's only so much this key defense can do when they have absolutely no synergy and they have got absolutely no game experience playing together. And I'm not trying to make excuses, of course. As like I said, none of them are perfect. I think that Aiden Corr, you can never lack him for trying. I think he's a solid defender, but he's not in the upper echelon of defenders in the competition. Griffin Logue is also a very good, very reliable defender, but his body's let him down recently. And again, he's not in that top echelon of defenders, and that's just widely known. You know, you compare him to some of the best in the competition. And we don't have any A-grade defenders. That is not a lie. I'm not trying to say that about these guys, and I've never said that about these guys. But Charlie Comben, a great footballer, had a great year in defence last year, but he's not a natural defender. He's a natural forward. He was brought into this club initially to play forward. I believe the long-term plan is still to play him forward. So it's just trying to think about where our backline currently sits. A strong backline with a strong system, you should be able to slot players to an extent in and out of that backline, and it should be able to function relatively well and hold up relatively well when challenged and when the key personnel and the best available talent isn't there. But for a backline that's had no synergy at its best, it's no surprise that it's not functioning when it's missing some of its strongest players. So I'm nervous to see how we're going to hold up on Sunday. I'm still optimistic, and I don't want to feel like it's an impossible task, but with Jackson Archer now missing the next 3 games as well, he was one of our rising stars, one of our real finds of season 2024. So to add him into the mix of players that will be stepping aside and the players likely to take over from him, potentially you could be looking at a Darcy Tucker. I know that will send a lot of fans absolutely crazy, but potentially we look beyond. We might look to a Miller Bergman or potentially a Riley Hardiman. Miller Bergman, I think, probably makes sense given he's the lockdown of those 2 names I've just mentioned. I would love to see Riley Hardiman in there. Potentially Hardiman comes in. You might push Finn O'Sullivan further up the ground, although I thought he was great in defense, in a defensive defending role on Saturday night against the Dogs. There are a lot of questions around where our backline currently sits and where it might sit for this game coming up on Sunday. I just wanted to put some thoughts out there around our defense. And like I said, I'm not making excuses for them. We've been on the bottom of the ladder for a very, very long time, and there are deficiencies in all of their game that would contribute to that. But so does the lack of cohesion, so does lack of consistency, so does the pressure, or the lack of pressure, I should say, from coming further afield. And that was kind of shown in the opposite way on Saturday night. That is one thing I really loved about our game on Saturday night. In those second and third quarters, you would often see the midfielders pushing back into defence to help out with defensive pressure, and it made such a big difference. It allowed us to clear the ball out of our defensive 50 a lot easier. On the flip side, the defensive pressure that's been added in the forward line through the likes of Darling and Constanti, we were able to lock the ball in our attacking 50 a lot easier. It allowed us for repeat entries. We were putting additional pressure on the Bulldogs. We just need our team defense to lift, and you see the massive difference that it makes when it does. So that's sort of where I'm feeling and how I'm feeling about the back line. I feel like they are a bit of a victim of circumstance at the moment, but that isn't going to really change the situation we're in right now. This is the situation, this is the circumstance, and we do need to find players to replace them. Like I said, this video, I am recording it before the teams have been announced. We've got an extended squad that will be announced on Thursday. This video will be up on Friday morning, Friday night. We will have the final side locked in and ready to go. There's a few options there to replace. Again, it just depends on who exactly is missing. We know Logue and Archer won't be there, so to replace Archer, it's the likes of potentially Miller Bergman, Riley Hardiman. I don't think Josh Goad is available for selection, but if he is, you could potentially throw around his name in there as well. And then to replace Griffin Logue, I think Callan Dawson is probably the obvious replacement. Matt Whitlock, I don't know if he's ready, especially with Charlie Comben still being inexperienced. So I don't know, like I said, where Charlie Comben sits yet. His ankle, it looks like it's a bit of a test, a wait and see. If it was just Charlie Comben missing, potentially you could give Whitlock a chance and a go, but I don't know how I feel about having so much inexperience in that backline. There's only so much they can do physically as well. I'd be inclined to give Callan Dawson a go. He's a mature body, a bigger body, and he didn't really put a foot wrong last season. It was more when he lost his spot due to suspension. He couldn't really get himself back in to the side. So he'd be the one that I'd be going for. Will Dawson is another name you could throw in there. I really like what I've seen from him and the promise that and how he could really develop and enhance our backline in the future. So there's plenty of options. It's a bit of a wait and see. I'm looking forward to seeing the combination that we go with, but I do really feel for the backline, in particular Aiden Core. I think he's under an immense amount of pressure. He is one of the most experienced players in that backline, and I think there's a lot of responsibility weighing on his shoulders, not just from a perspective of he's trying to navigate a young, inexperienced Charlie Comben and then Griffin Logue when fit. But when Griffin Logue hasn't been there for most of the season, it's been a rotation of 5, 6, 7 players. And then on top of that, there's a lack of consistency and a lack of cohesion. And then the players that are coming through are all relatively young. So it's a very difficult task. I wanted to just give a bit of perspective on that. Luke McDonald, you could potentially put him in the same category. There's only so much these guys are able to do. Caleb Daniel, he's new into the back line. There are just so many moving parts with this back line constantly. It's no surprise that we can't find a way to get them to gel and get them to work. They haven't really had the opportunity to do so. It's another challenge on Sunday, but I'm going to back them in. I'm going to back them in to be able to withstand the pressure and step up and rise to the challenge and hopefully throw everything they've got against the Dees. Let's talk about the Dees. There's 2 past games we can touch on. We obviously played them a month ago in the intra-club game, going down by 46 points. It was a pretty disappointing performance from North. I remember coming off that game at Arden Street, I felt like half of our game was very defensive and it was solid defensively, but then we couldn't get a score on the board. And then the second half of the game was good offensively, but then we also left ourselves exposed and wide open to the Dees, and they were able to transition the ball very quickly from one end of the ground to the other and pile on a winning score. They did play really, really well. They put on a very, very brave face against the Giants. They went down by just under a kick. It was wet, it was cold, it was pretty grueling conditions for their first game back, and the Giants are a pretty difficult side to go up against. So I'm looking forward to seeing how both sides are able to back it up. We are obviously coming off an 8-day break, and the Dees coming off the 7-day break back under the roof. We definitely play Marvel a lot better than the Dees do. They don't play Marvel that well. I hope we can use all of that sort of stuff to our advantage. Going back to last year, round 15 at the MCG, Saturday night under lights, we just went down to the Dees by a handful of points. Cam Zurhaar was the superstar of the night. He kicked, I think it was 3 or 4 final quarter goals, and he was the one really leading from the front in that last quarter. We just couldn't get the job done. Cam Zurhaar was excellent on Saturday night everywhere but in front of goal. He was very, very inaccurate. I spoke about it in my review of the game from Saturday night. If we can just try and get him around the ball and give him more opportunities, then hopefully he'll be able to convert this week and he'll be able to really contribute on the scoreboard as well. Jack Darling, game 300. It's only his second game for North Melbourne, but I already know, and I've spoken to him about this before, he just feels so appreciated and so at home and so loved by the North Melbourne community and fans, and he just feels like he's been really embraced and just welcomed with open arms from the moment he stepped into the club, and particularly reception from fans on Saturday night. So I'm really hoping we can continue that energy going into Sunday's game and really get behind him and hopefully get a win for someone who has become a fast fan favourite. I know I absolutely adore him. I think he's such a great guy and been huge for our club already on and off field. And I know a lot of people emulate that and echoed those thoughts. So best of luck to JD for game 300 as well. I can't help but feel deflated. I feel like there was such a massive build up heading into round 1, and while the exterior and the AFL world outside of Arden Street probably felt like it was a very gallant, very brave and very competitive performance from North, we discussed this internally. The result just wasn't good enough. We really, really needed to capitalise on the Bulldogs injuries and on the control that we did have for a lot of the game and walk away with the 4 points. So you would have thought heading into the Dees game, we would have definitely had an element of confidence about us and maybe a head full of steam and really looking for revenge and really looking to embrace and respond to the pressure and throw everything we had at them. So now to have just about half our backline removed in the blink of an eye, it kind of leaves you exposed and wondering, oh God, is there ever going to be a way we can actually start to get a bit of momentum and start getting a bit of self-belief and looking at games and thinking, yeah, we can absolutely knock them off without worrying about a depleted backline or without worrying about Cam Zurhaar can't hit the scoreboard. It's frustrating. I don't want to think that we can't do it, because I genuinely do believe that there's enough talent on the field, and if we work as a real solid unit, we actually can win this game. We did see in the last quarter against the Dees last season, and at periods during our game against the Bulldogs and against West Coast in that match sim as well, when we get on a roll, we look just as unstoppable and we look just as dangerous as the best fast-moving ball teams in the competition. So I always sit here and think, why can't we? Why not us? But the reality is that now we're missing, half of our backline, and our defense as a team widespread is already the weakest element of our game. So like I said, I don't want to think that it's an impossible dream, and I do really think that we just need to wrap our heads around this, just accept the circumstance, make the most of it, and just look to respond to the challenge. Once again, I do think that it is a winnable game on Sunday, whether that's delusional or not. I don't think that a comment like that is so outlandish when we're only heading into our second game of the season. We did play the Dees a month ago and we did lose that game by 46 points, but I did say it at the time and I do stand firm. I wonder how much of ourselves we wanted to expose to the Dees, knowing we were going to play them just a few weeks later for 4 points and in the premiership season. So I do think that we would have taken enough out of that Bulldogs game. It would have left us with enough confidence and self-belief that actually we can do this and that we actually can win the game. Like I said, I'm filming this video on Tuesday night. The video will be out probably on Friday, and I'm sure a few changes have been made to the team between now and then, and I will be sure to insert myself in the future sometime when those things are announced. How do you think we're going to go on Sunday afternoon? Leave all of your thoughts in the comments below. We can continue the conversation over on socials, Kanga TV Show on Instagram, Facebook and X. I look forward to seeing you guys for the final word And I look forward to seeing you guys on Sunday afternoon. But until then, go Roos.